Apparently, American Wayne loves his Scotsmen. In his recent video responding to angry atheists, he is trying to explain his positions, so to speak, and he's trying to respond to some of the comments that were made. I'm just going to. The video is 8 minutes long. I'm going to post a link to it down in the crotch bar. But I will respond to a couple of things that he said really fast. Just let me see here. Yeah, here we go.
As in life in general, like you don't deserve to breathe the same.
Now, in this particular part of the video, he's talking about the Christian turned atheist as to why they don't have credibility from a Christian perspective. Essentially, he is saying that. I'll let him speak for himself. Let me just go back a little further, and maybe he can speak for himself in this minute.
The response to Cult of Dusty, and I knew as I was making it pretty much all the things I was going to hear. Let me just get something out of the way real quick. Number one, I'm fat.
Yeah, I made it a point not to mention that because, you and I, we both have similar passions in terms of our love of food. So I'm guessing you're a foodie. I'm a foodie. So I'm not about to call you fat because, you know what, I'd be talking about me too. Judge not lest ye be judged, Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. So I'm not going to judge you for being fat because I don't want to be judged for being fat. Moving right along.
I know. And number two, I use some logical fallacies. Yes, I know.
Okay. Now, you are aware that you use some logical fallacies. Again, as I stated in my previous video, well, no, I didn't state this part. I'm going to state it in this one. If you know you're using logical fallacies when you're making a video, or if you know you're going to make a video, write down your points. This will help you from making logical fallacies. That way you can keep your stuff together. Okay, I'm doing this video on the fly, so. But then again, I've been YouTubing for like about a few years now, so I kind of have an idea of what I want to say, which basically is, let you speak for yourself and then respond. So, yes, yeah, you might want to work on that. Moving right along. Oops. And boom.
Thinking of these as I was making the video. That video was not a thoughtful video of me sitting down and scrutinizing every word that whoever, that Dusty or any other atheist has said. It was just a response about the lack of credibility that so-called Christian turned atheists have, and yes.
Now, normally I would suggest this if you're going to criticize something that Cult of Dusty has said. Use this method, because this way people will hear Dusty say something and you can respond accordingly. Yes, this does take quite a bit of time, and it does require quite a bit of planning sometimes. But more importantly, you kind of get the feeling of what Dusty is really trying to get across, so that way you can respond appropriately. Now, this is the part where I do want to address. Let's move right along.
I was serious, and I stand by that lack of credibility. That lack of credibility that you guys have. And I'm not talking about as in life in general, like you don't deserve to breathe the same oxygen.
Okay. By your stating that not that they don't deserve to breathe the same oxygen, you are basically saying that you don't really think we deserve to breathe the same oxygen. Yeah. You might want to work on that thought process there a little bit, Wayne. Just a tad, just a touch. But going on to your problem with our lack of credibility.
That I breathe, but I'm talking about talking from a Christian standpoint, credibility. I'm just talking about from my perspective. I don't think there's anybody who can ever really be a Christian and then become an atheist. When you're born again, that's a game changer.
Well, Wayne, again, it goes back to the question I made in a previous video, which is, have you ever been lied to? Lied to and actually believed the lie for quite some time. Now, I myself was born again. I myself spoke in tongues. I myself, did some rather interesting stuff. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Now, and like I said previously, I myself am not an atheist. I'm an agnostic. But, you know, stating that no real Christian would ever leave Christianity, yeah, there's actually quite a lot of people who would disagree with you, especially people who were very serious about their beliefs, that genuinely believed in the doctrine and dogma of Christianity, especially evangelical, fundamentalist, Pentecostal Christianity. Follow? Okay, moving right along.
The apostles, they were martyrs because of the gospel, for the sake of the gospel.
Yes, and how many people died for Nazi Germany? They believed that Hitler was right. They were willing to die and risk their lives for his ideology. How many people risked their lives for the ideology of Stalin, Lenin, Marx? How many people gave their lives for the Confederate ideology, which, basically black people were inferior to whites, therefore it was perfectly acceptable to enslave them and treat them however you wanted. You see, just because somebody is willing to die for an ideology does not necessarily mean that that ideology is correct or that that ideology is worth dying for. It just means that somebody was committed enough and believed hard enough to be willing to give up their lives and martyr themselves. That doesn't necessarily make them correct. Moving right along.
They knew it to be true. These were people that died for the sake of what they know, and they saw a risen Savior.
Again, just because you believe something and are willing to die for it does not make it true. It just means you are willing to give your life for it. That's all. You are willing to stake your life and your liberty and your reputation, whatever it is, for that belief. Moving right along.
Changed everything. This was a game changer. And so for us as Christians, when we're born again, it is a game changer. And so I do not believe that somebody who once really knows God, now maybe someone who thinks they do, which obviously you would agree that you were delusional as a Christian because you don't believe in a sky daddy, magical God, or whatever you'd like to say. You would agree with me that you did not have a relationship with.
You can have a relationship with an imaginary being. I know this is going to really just blow your mind here. But if you believe in an imaginary deity enough, you do have a relationship with them, even if that's in your own mind. You follow? You can, again, it's a matter of how much you believe something and accepted something to be true. Now, there are many explanations as to why some people would believe they have a relationship with the divine or that the divine speaks to them. One of my more personal favorites is the concept that the gods that we worship are actually things within our own mind that we need to work out. If we have issues with, let's say, parental authority, we're going to serve a God that is a strong parental figure. Or if we have need of a deity that has some strong feminine traits because we're lacking in that area, then you know what? We will construct a being with strong feminine characteristics. It is something that we as humans do in order to help us cope with certain things. Keep in mind that for the longest time, we actually believed that elemental forces of nature were alive, that they were actual people. We believed in the sun, the moon, the rain, the trees, the flowers, etc. But that doesn't necessarily make that belief correct. It just means that was how we learned how to cope with things until we were able to learn what it is those things actually are. Let me just check out my time here. I'll respond to a couple more things he says, and then I'll move along.
God, that from it was psychosomatic, or because everybody else around you said that they were praying and believed in God and all this stuff. This is my point. You admittingly can say that you never knew God.
And according to you, that means what? That we obviously were not Christians? That we weren't sincere in our beliefs? That we weren't wholeheartedly committed to our beliefs? Just because many of us acknowledge that we were deluded and deceived by evangelical Christianity does not necessarily mean that we weren't sincere about it. Many of us were quite sincere about our beliefs. Speaking for myself, I was going into ministry. I wanted to be a missionary. Heck, I wanted to give my life on the mission field. And then I realized I was not necessarily in a very healthy situation, mentally speaking. All of that aside, again, believing in something does not necessarily mean that it exists. It just means that you believed in something strong enough to give your life for it. Moving right along.
You're admitting to that, okay?
Yes.
Either that, or if you're not admitting to that, then you're admitting that God is real and you did know Him.
No, it just means that our understanding of God may have been flawed. Our understanding of what the Creator is like was flawed because it was limited to a very specific set of doctrines and beliefs. Do I acknowledge that there is a Creator? Yes. Do I believe that it is the same God that you worship? No. Because, again, different religion that I personally practice, but also my understanding of what the Creator, it has been shaped more by my own personal experiences and my own personal gnosis. For those of you that are not familiar with that term, you might want to look it up on Google. I'm not going to waste my time arguing about it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we didn't know God or that we didn't believe God existed. It just means that our belief was false. Moving right along.
And so there is no credibility. And when I say that, I'm not talking about you suck as a human, period.
Again, you bring that up. You bring that up as if you're trying to say, well, it's not that I think that you're bad as a human being because you don't believe in my religion, but I believe that you're bad as a human being because you don't believe in my religion. It's sort of like that old, I don't want to say that it was aliens, but it was aliens. Moving right along.
You have no credibility talking about Christianity or from the same standpoint as a Christian.
Actually, we do because we were there. We have seen, we have heard, we have experienced, we have smelled, we have tasted, we have touched. We are a witness to some of the things that are going on in evangelical Christianity. And you know what? We have every right to talk about Christianity because we were there. I was a Christian for over 13 years of my life. 13. Fundamentalist, evangelical, Pentecostal Christianity. Hardcore Pentecostal. You don't get as hardcore Pentecostal as I was back then. And I can still talk about it because you know what? I have my experiences there. Now, does that mean that my testimony may be tinged by my opinions of some of the things that have happened? Of course they are. But everybody's testimony is tainted a little bit by their own personal experiences and their own personal thinking. It's what makes human testimony both rather fascinating and also rather problematic, which goes back to the testimony of the humans that wrote the Bible. But I'm digressing.
You have no credibility with other Christians if you're trying to win their hearts or whatever you're trying to do.
Not trying to win anybody's heart here. I'm just trying to help you gain an understanding as to why some of us may have actually decided that your particular brand of Christianity is not healthy. Why your particular brand of Christianity is problematic. Why your particular brand of Christianity really rubbed some people the wrong way. And instead of actually trying to understand these people, you're trying to paint all of them with a very broad and wide brush. And you're trying to issue judgment. Again, Matthew chapter 7, verse 1, Jesus says, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." You're trying to cast judgment on these people, on us, and anybody else that may have walked away from Christianity and embraced some other religion. Let me tell you something. From what I hear from you, and this is just maybe me projecting a little bit, I think my Lord doth protest too much. What do I mean by that? What I mean is you're trying to find some kind of an excuse as to why those of us who left Christianity bothered you so much. I want to let that sink in. Why is it that those of us who left Christianity, why do we bother you so much? Why does it upset you so much? Why does it concern you so much? Is it because you're concerned for our welfare? Maybe. I don't know you well enough, to really make that assumption. Is it because that perhaps you're struggling and you're trying to find an answer that works for you? Again, no judgments here. That's something you need to work out. But if it bothers you that much because it's making you ask questions, maybe the answers you're getting right now aren't the answers you need. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, this is Dumac the Artist signing off. Slanchini Felcher, have a nice day. And Wayne, leave those Scotsmen alone, man. Leave those Scotsmen alone. They may be pretty to look at, but I think you'll receive a rather rude surprise if you look underneath the kilt.